Cleveland police search warrant! Cleveland police search warrant! Police search warrant!
Watch it.
Hands up! Come on down, hands up! Come on down, hands up! Come down now, hands up!
Bring it.
On the evening of March 2nd, 2026, a man was walking his dog through a field on the east side of Cleveland, Ohio, the same route he took most days, past the same patches of dirt, the same chain-link fences, the same stretch of open ground sitting in the shadow of Ginn Academy, a public school on East 162nd Street and Midland Avenue. His dog had been pulling toward the same spot for about a week. He had written it off. Dogs sniff things. That is what dogs do. But on this particular evening, the dog stopped and would not move on. So the man decided to investigate. He walked over to a mound of disturbed earth and found something partially sticking out of the ground. A black suitcase, halfway buried, heavy. He pulled it out. He unzipped it. And what he found inside that suitcase ended his ordinary evening and launched one of the most sinister criminal cases Cleveland had seen in years. He called 911. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos.
It was halfway buried. It's about this thick. It's about halfway buried. I pulled it up, unzipped it. I couldn't really see, and I opened it up.
That call set off a chain of events that would unravel in less than 72 hours. When the first officer arrived and approached the partially buried suitcase, he radioed for backup before he even opened it. He waited. When colleagues arrived, they unzipped the suitcase together, and what they found inside confirmed every fear. A child's body, folded and compressed, badly decomposed, positioned in the fetal position. The officer on body camera footage can be heard saying quietly, "It looked like a kid." Police immediately secured the perimeter and conducted a methodical search of the surrounding field. Roughly 25 yards away, they found a second suitcase. It had also been partially buried. Inside, another child's body, another young girl, 2 suitcases, 2 children, same field, same school. The Cleveland Division of Police activated its homicide unit immediately. Chief Dorothy Todd was notified. Within hours, police were conducting neighborhood canvasses, pulling every available surveillance camera, running tips through their databases, and working the phones. There was just one problem. Neither of the 2 deceased girls matched any active missing persons report in Cleveland. There were no open cases for missing children fitting their descriptions. Nobody had reported them gone. 2 children were dead and buried in a field next to a school, and as far as the official record was concerned, nobody had noticed they were missing. The following morning, on March 3rd, 2026, Cleveland police held a press conference. Chief Todd confirmed that 2 female children had been discovered deceased in suitcases in a field adjacent to Ginn Academy on the city's east side. She confirmed that both victims were young girls. She confirmed that their identities had not yet been established and that their descriptions did not correspond to any locally active missing children's cases. The medical examiner's office was conducting autopsies. Cause of death was listed as pending. Investigators were asking the public for help, and they were also running DNA. That DNA work moved quickly. Within days, the medical examiner confirmed that the 2 girls were half-sisters. They shared the same mother. From that biological link, investigators were able to build the thread that connected the 2 victims to a name. The older girl was 10-year-old Amor Wilson. The younger girl was 8-year-old Mila Chatman. 2 daughters, 2 half-sisters, both connected biologically to the same woman, 28-year-old Aliyah Henderson, a Cleveland resident who lived less than a mile from the field where her daughter's bodies were found. Investigators did not need long. On March 4th, 2026, just 2 days after the bodies were discovered, Cleveland police executed a search warrant at Aliyah Henderson's home. They did not send a couple of patrol officers to knock on the door. They sent a SWAT team. Body camera footage from that raid captures the entry. Officers breach the front door, move through the home, and within moments locate Henderson and order her to come downstairs. She comes down the stairs wrapped in a blanket, covering her face. She says nothing. She does not resist. She is cooperative and emotionless as officers escort her out of the home and place her into a police cruiser. What the body camera also captures, and what becomes deeply difficult to process, is the sound of another young child inside that home, crying. Officers confirmed that a young child was present in the residence and that the child appeared to be in good health. Henderson was taken to the Cleveland Division of Police Headquarters, where she was booked, fingerprinted, and photographed. She was 28 years old. She had no prior violent criminal history. She had never been convicted of a felony. She cooperated quietly with every step of the booking process. 2 days later, on March 6, 2026, Aliyah Henderson appeared before a judge for the first time. She was charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder, 1 for each daughter. The prosecutor asked for a $2 million bond, citing the nature of the charges and the risk to the public. The defense attorney noted that Henderson had no violent record, had spent her entire life in the Cleveland area, had ties to the community, and was looking for employment. The judge set the bond at $2 million. Henderson was remanded to Cuyahoga County Jail, where she has remained. Then, on March 25, 2026, a Cuyahoga County grand jury handed down an indictment. And the scope of that indictment told a story far more complex and far more disturbing than the 2 original murder charges. Aliyah Henderson now faces 26 counts. 6 counts of aggravated murder, 4 counts of murder, 6 counts of kidnapping, 4 counts of felonious assault, 3 counts of child endangering, 1 count of tampering with evidence, 2 counts of gross abuse of a corpse, 26 counts. And embedded within that indictment is a detail that reframes the entire case. The aggravated murder counts list the date of the offense as falling between November 12, 2025 and March 2, 2026. November 12, 2025. That is the date prosecutors believe is relevant to when these crimes began or when these children may have lost their lives. That is nearly 4 months before their bodies were found. For months during which 2 children, 1 in 4th grade, 1 in 3rd grade, were gone, and no alarm was raised. Let that timeline sink in. November 12, 2025 through March 2nd, 2026. The bodies were found on March 2nd. The indictment suggests the events that led to their deaths may have begun the previous fall. For months, that is the window prosecutors are now working within. For months during which 2 little girls, Amor Wilson, age 10, and Mila Chatman, age 8, were allegedly dead, and the world around them continued to turn without anyone in a position of authority knowing they were gone. No school reporting them absent to law enforcement. No family member filing a missing persons report. No welfare check triggered by a concerned neighbor. No CPS flag elevated to a crisis response. Nothing, just silence. And allegedly, during that same silence, their mother Aliyah Henderson was living in her home on Cleveland's east side, less than a mile from where she would eventually leave their bodies in a field. To understand how that silence was possible, you have to go back further than November 12, 2025. You have to go back years. Because the fathers of both Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman have now spoken publicly, and what they describe as a pattern that's stretched across years, a pattern of being kept away from their daughters, of being denied access, of being told by courts and by CPS that their concerns did not rise to the level required for intervention.
But the system at fault with her. They played a big part in the murders of these two children.
Mila Chatman's father spoke to Fox 8 in Cleveland. He chose to remain anonymous, but he was direct. He said he had been trying to gain custody of his daughter for 6 years. 6 years of legal efforts, of phone calls, of CPS reports, of court filings. He said that Aliyah Henderson had kept Mila from him consistently, that she had evaded and delayed every attempt he made to be present in his daughter's life. His words, as reported, were blunt. He said he had been told he was too family-oriented, that was the reason Henderson had given for withholding his daughter from him. He said he had contacted Child Protective Services on numerous occasions. He said every avenue he tried hit a wall. The last time he saw his daughter Mila was approximately 4 years before her body was found in that suitcase. His daughter was 8 years old when she died. He had not seen her since she was roughly 4, and he had been trying the entire time. Amor Wilson's father had a parallel experience. Reports indicate he also made efforts over the years to gain custody of Amor and was also denied consistent access to his daughter. Both fathers, separately, fighting the same system, trying to reach the same woman, trying to get to their children, and both coming up short. The father of Mila Chatman put it plainly when he spoke to reporters. He said he felt useless. He said he could not save his daughter. Those are not the words of a man who did nothing. Those are the words of a man who tried everything available to him and still lost. This is one of the most sinister threads running through this case. Not just the crime itself, but the infrastructure that surrounded it. The systems that were designed to catch exactly this kind of situation. CPS complaints, custody disputes, school attendance records, welfare checks, and the fact that, by all current accounts, none of those systems produced a result that kept Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman safe. That question is going to be one of the most significant threads in the legal and public reckoning that follows this case. Because if the fathers were filing CPS complaints for years, and those complaints were not resulting in substantive intervention, then this case is not just about Aliyah Henderson. It is also about what the system did and did not do with the information it had. Now, the school attendance question is one that investigators and the public are both pressing hard on. Amor Wilson was 10 years old. Mila Chatman was 8 years old. Both were of compulsory school age in Ohio. Both should have been enrolled in attending school. Ohio law requires children between the ages of 6 and 18 to attend school, and schools are required to report chronic absences and investigate when a child disappears from the rolls. If Amor and Mila stopped attending school in November 2025, which aligns with the date range in the indictment, that absence should have triggered a response. It should have generated a report. It should have produced a welfare check. Investigators have not yet publicly addressed the full picture of what the schools knew and when they knew it, but that question is brewing, and it will not go away. The kidnapping charges in the indictment add another dimension to this case that goes beyond the act of killing. 6 counts of kidnapping for 2 children. That charge in Ohio can apply not just to physically restraining someone and moving them, but to holding a person under circumstances that deprive them of their liberty through force, threat, or deception. The inclusion of kidnapping charges suggests that prosecutors believe there was a sustained period during which Amor and Mila were held in conditions that legally constitute unlawful restraint, conditions that may have been ongoing for some time before their deaths. Combined with the 4 counts of felonious assault and 3 counts of child endangering, the picture that the indictment constructs is not one of a single impulsive act. It is a picture of prolonged conduct, of escalation, of a situation inside that home that deteriorated over time and ultimately ended in the deaths of 2 children. The felonious assault charges in Ohio require proof of serious physical harm or the use of a deadly weapon. The child endangering charges require proof that a parent or guardian created a substantial risk to the health or safety of a child through neglect or abuse. Prosecutors are not filing these charges as formalities. Every charge in a 26-count indictment is a calculated statement about what the evidence shows. And what this indictment collectively says is that what happened to Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman was not sudden, was not accidental, and was not isolated to a single moment in time. The gross abuse of a corpse charges, 2 of them, 1 for each girl, speak to what allegedly happened after the girls died. Under Ohio law, this charge covers the mistreatment or abuse of a human body, including concealment. The tampering with evidence charge covers the act of altering, destroying, or concealing evidence relevant to an investigation. Both of these charges, taken together, point directly to the suitcases, to the act of placing the girls' bodies inside luggage, transporting them to a field adjacent to a public school, and burying them in shallow graves in the ground. That is what prosecutors allege Henderson did with the bodies of her own daughters. She put them in suitcases. She buried them in a field, and then she went home. The man who found them had no idea what he was walking past for an entire week. His dog knew before he did, and even after he pulled the suitcase out of the dirt and found what was inside, he put it back down, stepped back, and called 911. He was shaking when officers arrived. He told them the suitcase had been there for about a week. He told them his dog had been stopping and sniffing at that spot every single day. He told them he finally decided to check because the dog lingered too long. That one decision, to stop and look, is the only reason Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman have names today. Because before that call, they were not in the system as missing. They were not on anyone's radar. They were simply gone, and nobody with the authority to do something about it had connected the dots. Now let us talk about the broader picture of Aliyah Henderson's life prior to this arrest. because it matters to understanding the context of this case. Henderson is 28 years old. She has lived in the Cleveland area her entire life. As of the time of her arrest, she had no prior violent criminal history and no prior felony convictions. That is a fact that the court and the public have acknowledged. Her PSA, her public safety assessment score, came back at 1 in 1, the lowest possible risk designation. On paper, she looked like someone with minimal legal exposure. The defense used that at her bond hearing. The prosecution acknowledged it and then pivoted immediately to the nature of the charges, which overrode every other factor in the judge's assessment. Henderson also, according to the body camera footage from inside her home during the SWAT raid, was living in a residence that contained a young child, a child who was not Amor or Mila, who was confirmed by officers to be alive and in good health. That child's presence inside the home raises additional questions that investigators are working through. The child was taken into protective custody, and the appropriate child welfare authorities were notified. Beyond that, Cleveland police have not released additional details about that child's identity or circumstances as the investigation remains active. The memorial that now stands in the field near Ginn Academy on East 162nd Street tells you something about how this case has landed in the community. Balloons, flowers, photographs, stuffed animals, placed by people who never met Amor Wilson or Mila Chatman, but who understand exactly what it means that two little girls ended up in that field and that no one was looking for them. The people of Cleveland's South Collinwood neighborhood have felt the weight of this case in a way that is palpable. This is a tight community. People know each other. And the realization that two children from that community could be dead for months without the world knowing is the kind of thing that does not leave a neighborhood quickly. There is another layer to this case that has not been fully resolved publicly, and that is the question of the cause of death. As of the time this video was recorded, the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner had not released official findings on how Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman died. The bodies were significantly decomposed when found, which complicated the forensic examination. The autopsies were conducted, but the results have not been made public in full. What prosecutors have told the court is that the deaths were the result of criminal conduct by Aliyah Henderson. The specific mechanism, whether it was physical violence, deprivation, or something else entirely, is a detail that will almost certainly become central to the trial and will be argued extensively before a jury. The fact that there are 4 counts of felonious assault alongside the murder charges suggests there was physical evidence of serious harm. But the precise cause of death remains, as of now, a piece of this case that has not been publicly resolved. What has been resolved is the legal trajectory. Henderson has been indicted on 26 counts by a Cuyahoga County grand jury. She is being held in the Cuyahoga County Jail on a $2 million bond. Her arraignment on the 26-count indictment was scheduled for March 25, 2026, the day before this video was finalized. The arraignment is a procedural step in which Henderson will formally enter a plea to each of the 26 charges. Given the severity of the indictment and the evidence that has already been publicly described, this case is heading toward a trial that will examine not just what Aliyah Henderson allegedly did, but also how the systems around Amor and Mila functioned, or failed to function, in the months and years before March 2nd, 2026. Let us now go back to the fathers one more time, because their story is one of the most important threads in this entire case. The father of Mila Chatman spent 6 years trying to get to his daughter. He filed CPS complaints. He pursued custody legally. He was told no. He was delayed. He was blocked. The last time he saw Mila, she was approximately 4 years old. The father of Amor Wilson similarly attempted to maintain a presence in his daughter's life and was similarly denied. Both men, when they spoke publicly after the bodies were found, did not spiral into rage. They were measured, they were broken, and they were clear. They had tried. The system had not delivered a result that kept their children safe, and now their daughters were gone. That is a question that goes far beyond Aliyah Henderson's guilt or innocence in a criminal court. It is a question about accountability at a systemic level. When a parent files a CPS complaint, there is a process. A caseworker is assigned. An investigation is opened. A determination is made. The determinations in this case, over years, across multiple complaints from multiple reporters, apparently did not result in the removal or protection of Amor Wilson or Mila Chatman. Ohio's child welfare system, like every state's, operates under an enormous caseload with limited resources. That is not an excuse. It is a context. And it is a context that the families of Amor and Mila, the community in Cleveland, and ultimately the legal system will have to reckon with directly. There is also the school piece, which cannot be overstated. 2 children, 10 and 8, vanished from school attendance records. If the November 12th timeline is accurate, and the next time anyone in a position of authority engaged with their existence was when a man's dog sniffed out a suitcase in a field in March. That is a gap of approximately 3.5 months. In that time, no school truancy officer, no CPS worker, no law enforcement officer, no family member with legal standing produced a welfare check that reached Amor and Mila in time. How that gap exists in a system theoretically designed to prevent exactly this outcome is a question that Cleveland School District, its child welfare agency, and its law enforcement apparatus are now going to have to answer publicly. The man who found the suitcases, Philip, as he was identified on body camera footage, said something quietly powerful when he spoke to police that evening. He said he had been walking past that spot for a week. He said his dog kept stopping. He said he finally decided to go look because he did not know what it was, and he needed to know. That instinct, to stop, to investigate, to not look away, is the same instinct that every system surrounding Amor and Mila allegedly failed to act on. The difference is that Philip was just a man walking a dog. He was not funded by the state. He was not assigned a caseload. He was not operating under a legal mandate to protect children. He just stopped. And because he stopped, Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman have names, and Aliyah Henderson is in a jail cell facing 26 counts. The case now enters its next phase. Henderson's arraignment on the full 26-count indictment marks the formal beginning of the trial process. Her defense attorney will have to build a case against an indictment that includes aggravated murder, kidnapping, felonious assault, child endangering, evidence tampering, and gross abuse of a corpse. The prosecution will present the DNA evidence, the forensic findings from the autopsies, the body camera footage from the arrest, the evidence collected from Henderson's home, and whatever digital and surveillance evidence was recovered during the investigation. This is going to be a lengthy trial. It is going to be a difficult trial, and it is going to force the city of Cleveland and the state of Ohio to sit with questions that go well beyond what happened inside Aliyah Henderson's home. Amor Wilson was 10 years old. She liked being called Amor. She had a father who fought for 6 years to be in her life. She had a half-sister, Mila, who was 2 years younger and who shared her mother. She should have been in elementary school in November of 2025, working on multiplication tables and reading assignments, growing up on the east side of Cleveland. Mila Chatman was 8 years old. She had a father who filed CPS complaints and pursued custody for the entirety of her life. She had a sister who shared her blood. She should have been in 2nd or 3rd grade, still at the age where school is a social universe, where friends and teachers and the rhythms of a classroom make up the whole of a week. Both girls had people who wanted them. Both girls had fathers who asked, who begged, who filed paperwork and made phone calls and showed up. And both girls ended up in suitcases in a field next to a school where children go every single morning. That is the reality of this case. Not just what Aliyah Henderson allegedly did, but the spiral of circumstances, the custody denials, the CPS complaints, the school absences, the 4 months of silence that surrounded it. A crime does not exist in a vacuum. It exists inside a set of conditions. And this case has a set of conditions that are going to be examined under a very bright light in the months ahead. As of the recording of this video, the medical examiner has not released the official causes of death for Amor Wilson and Mila Chatman. The trial date for Aliyah Henderson has not been set. The investigation into any possible additional suspects or persons of interest remains active, according to Cleveland police. The child found alive in Henderson's home during the arrest has been placed in the care of child welfare authorities. And the memorial near Ginn Academy on East 162nd Street, the balloons, the photographs, the stuffed animals placed in a field by strangers, is still there. 2 suitcases, 2 children, a dog that would not walk away, and a case that is only just beginning to unfold. We will continue to follow this case as it develops. If you found this video informative, please share it, not just because it helps the channel, but because cases like this one deserve to be heard. 2 little girls deserve to have their names said out loud, by as many people as possible for as long as this case takes to reach its conclusion. Amor Wilson, Mila Chatman, say their names.